Avilez, and welcome back. My name is StevePloetz, El Patron de the Contingent on You listening podcast, here with my amigo, Isaiah Hernandez. Isaiah, how are you?
Hey, thanks, Steve. For those non-Spanish speakers, what does patron mean?
Patron means the chief.
Ah, okay.
With the Contingent on You listening podcast, we talk all things real estate for both agents and consumers, talking about things like what's happening in the market, strategies and tactics as agents, things that we can do as buyers and sellers in an ever-changing market. And sometimes, today included, we get a guest. Today, La Reina, Angela Avilez. Angela, thank you for joining us in studio.
Welcome.
I've got Isaiah with a bunch of dirt on you. He's going to kind of introduce you and go through all of your ex-boyfriend or the sales production and what you've done over the last few years. Isaiah, who is she?
Thanks, Steve. So, Angela, please correct me if I am wrong about anything, but our special guest today is Angela Avilez. She is team lead, along with her husband, David Cardenas, of the Cardenas & Company Real Estate Group from our Eastlake office of Century 21 Award. And Angela actually joined Century 21 Award brokerage in Southern California in 2010. And for the past 10 years or so, maybe more, has been a Centurion producer. So for those who do not know, top producer in the field and with the company. Last year in 2020 alone, or 2021 alone, she finished at number 5 in the company. That's out of 700 plus agents. And then completed 85 transactions, both buyer and seller, and with a sales volume of over $55 million.
Let's get that applause soundbite.
Yeah.
Yes. Huh? How about that? Angela, it's obviously you know what you're doing. Thank you for being here. Here's what we thought we would talk about specific with you. And we have a lot of different guests, a lot of different people that do a lot of business, a lot of different ways. And what we wanted to talk with you specifically about, in my opinion, is the most important part of all of it. I mean, certainly we talk about mindset, we talk about all these different things, but it's conversion. And I think some people feel like lead generation is most important. Like the number one thing you got to do is get leads. My feeling, personal opinion, I got a lot of them, and I'm an expert on my opinion. My opinion is there's a lot of leads that are out there, but it's qualifying and converting them that is where the real skill comes into play. That I think we've named this, what is it? Nothing happens until someone sells something. What I would like to start with is give us a little bit of a breakdown of your team and your team's setup. So it's husband and wife team, and then you have agent staff. Tell us what it looks like.
So thank you for having me, El Patron, and Isaiah. So our team structure is pretty simple. We try not to make it too complicated. We have what is our team manager, administrative manager. That's Jessica. She's kind of like the glue that keeps us all together, not only David and I, but with the team agents. Right now we have 13 agents, but some of them have taken a little bit of a back burner kind of approach to their business just because either they've had children or grandbabies. And, the thing I really stress to my agents on our team is to enjoy life. Of course, we can make a ton of money in real estate, but having your family time and things like that is super important to me. So of that, we have probably about 6 agents that work full-time with David and I, and the majority of them are buyer's agents.
That's rad. That's so good. I love it. So talk to me then and you basically, between you and David, you manage these agents, right? So you do some training with them, you help them gain some ideas. How does it look in terms of tracking? Are you guys heavy on tracking leads that come in, conversion rates and ratios, or is it more freelance? How do you guys set that up?
David and I do on our own production. Our team agents, we kind of have more of a coaching kind of philosophy. They really are there to support, our activities in the sense of listing. We've been fortunate enough these past few years to have a lot more listing activities. So
you're so humble. You guys have kicked ass. That's how it is.
We're blessed. That's for sure.
Well, and you work hard. I mean, that's part of it. Yes, you've been blessed. We've all been blessed. But I would say you guys really put a focus and an energy. And frankly, husband and wife teams are tricky. And you guys seem to, I mean, from the outside looking in, you guys seem to excel at it. I think you've done a good job of dividing and conquering, that it seems like David is mainly working buyers. Yes, you're
Yes.
mainly working sellers. You told us kind of off air before we started that, hey, when it comes to some of the stuff on the buy side, I'm not really in it. So you guys have a very distinct line as to that's yours, that's mine, stay
Yeah.
out of it.
Yeah, it wasn't always like that though, because for anyone who knows me, everyone knows I like to be bossy. So,
What?
so
David got a few lamps thrown at
no,
him. is what
you
you
know what? I will say that when we first started here, we had really lofty goals, and coming into award, I, basically signed up, and then a month later found out I was pregnant. So that was a very interesting experience, just going through what was essentially the foreclosure market, and then having been, coming to a new brokerage, having a baby, and then, trying to earn my keep and be, always be number one, be at the top. So I will give credit where credit is due, and David Romero has really helped David and I work together better through his coaching. I think that was probably like a game changer for us, because we were overlapping a lot in the beginning, and it was causing a lot of issues, not only in our business but also our home life. So once we looked for that kind of coaching from within our brokerage and the kind of support, it really made us stronger and better. So after we started coaching with David, we could literally see our business leveling up year over year. And I could honestly say every single year I've been with Award, my business has grown. We, whether it's, buying leads, prospecting more, whatever, it is true what you say. You could spend thousands of dollars on, leads and things like that, but if you're not converting them, it's just a database, right?
It's meaningless. It's
Completely
wasted. It's
agreed.
wasted money. It's names and phone numbers and emails that sit in an Excel spreadsheet or some fancy CRM, but it's wasted.
Yeah.
And so that's the critical thing that since I think mainly our podcast is geared towards agents, is figuring out, so how do you convert? What does it look like to walk in? Do you get somebody that walks into an open house that's casually looking, or you meet somebody at a party, the process of converting them to clientele? And so, of course, that breaks down, I think, into two different categories, buyers and sellers. And I recognize that your side really is on the seller side, but I know that you're a kick-ass agent, and so you can talk to us also on the buy side a little bit. Here's where I want to start. When it comes to converting a buyer, for you and your team, are you willing to take somebody out if they're not pre-qualified? Do they have to be pre-approved before you put them in the car? And I know now with COVID, people aren't putting them in your car, so to speak. But are you showing property to anybody before they're approved?
No,
Never.
That's not
0% of the time.
No.
When did you switch that up? Like, at what point in your guys' career did you guys get to the point where it's like, okay, if they're not pre-approved, we're not showing them?
That's kind of how it's always been.
Really?
I mean, we learned from Mike Ferry, if you can't, if they don't have that pre-approval, if they're not qualified leads, then you're wasting your time.
So for newer agents, for an agent like me, if I get someone who reaches out through Yelp and whatnot, and I'm just starting out because that's where I'm at right now, what point do you guys decide, like, okay, it's time to request that pre-approval up front rather than, like, because sometimes you get people who just have no idea.
And it's interesting to hear Angela's perspective, because Angela, you're saying 0.0. I'm never going to show somebody without them being approved or having a proof of funds or me physically seeing. That's what you're saying. I'm physically saying. For me, it's different. It depends on where they come from. If it's referred by my lender, even if he hasn't run the pre-approval, he has some kind of basics.
Right.
If it's my mom's friend that, I mean, and we will limit it to. But what I'm getting at is if it's a close sphere, and my mom's friend is probably a bad example. No disrespect, Mom. But you may not know the best real estate qualified leads. But like, if it's somebody that has referred a fair amount of business, or an agent that has retired, or something like that, I think I'm going to be more apt to. We want to show excellent service from the beginning. And certainly, I also understand Angela's point, which is you want to position yourself as an expert, and an expert is not going to waste their time driving around and then discover, like, oh, actually, what you've got is you have some crazy alimony and child support that's not going to allow you to like qualify.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. But the other thing we want to, take into consideration is giving someone the false sense of hope that they qualify for something they may not qualify for, right? So, we have past clients that are move-up buyers. We still want to see their pre-approval to see if they're comfortable with the payment, because why would we want to, obviously buying a home, there's a sacrifice, but if they're considering maybe putting more money down, or if the interest rate was too high, or something changed in their financial situation, I just don't want to put people in a spot where they're not feeling comfortable. And I think that that's something that I learned during the foreclosure market, because I would sit in front of families that were crying and devastated because they were losing their homes, and ultimately they were put in a program they just couldn't afford, and it creeped up on them and they lost their houses.
Yeah,
so I just have this thing about knowing where someone is feeling comfortable, being able to have a quality of life, owning a home. I mean, you don't have to like be, what does they call it, house rich or house poor all the time, but being able to do the things as a family, that's just something I always really take into consideration. So we really want to make sure that the family, when they get qualified, that they're comfortable with the payment and they have the ability to make the payment.
I like it. So kind of what you're saying is, look, it's a better service to you as the client to make sure that you qualify, because otherwise what I'm doing as an agent is maybe I'm setting unrealistic expectations. I'm showing you beautiful houses, and then we just at their $800,000 price point, and now all of a sudden we discover that you only qualify for $600,000, and I've broken your heart. So is the goal then with that initial call? I love Isaiah's trying to get in a question in here.
Oh,
but
no. Just move my arm.
So with the initial call, what's your goal? Like an initial buyer call. A buyer call comes in, hey, I was referred by Tony, or hey, I found you on Yelp, or hey, you guys reach out to them because they, I don't know, or they come through whatever it is. What's the goal of that first call?
The first, probably the first 3 questions we asked is, did they serve? Because we live in San Diego, and we have about 75% of our book of business is military families.
Nice.
So we always start off the question is, did you serve? Because we know right away what, bucket they'll go into when we talk about the pre-qualification. Because then, obviously being certified with Navy Federal, with Cardis, and also we have lots of programs for them.
Right.
And then the secondary part would be, are they renting? Have they been pre-approved? Have they talked to someone about what the mortgage looks like for the property? And, obviously throughout San Diego, there's a lot of pockets that have different type of tax rate, but we sell primarily in the South Bay. And you have pockets like Ota Ranch that have a 2% Melrose. You have East Lake might have a 1.5. And so that could impact their payment. Some have 2 HOAs. So if we're spending time with the family and we put them into an area like, let's say in Winding Walk, they have 2 HOAs plus a 1.9% tax rate and the principal and interest payment, it could really get costly for them. So knowing that part of it is what I coach our agents on. Because if they don't know what they're selling, the product they're selling, the community they're selling, they could be setting up the family for failure and not being able to qualify at all.
Right,
So.
like accidental failure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, not malicious,
Yeah.
but just not doing a good job of providing them with the real accurate information, data, et
Exactly.
cetera,
And
et
if you have
cetera.
families that are coming in from out of town, they're PCSing in and out, obviously they get orders. They're coming in with their families, and they may not have the time to, have an extended search time. Maybe they're living in military housing. So, asking all the right questions up front so that we can make the process really smooth and seamless.
And so talk to me then on the clientele that needs some time. They got credit issues. They've got they don't have enough for the down payment, and they're looking at, and you guys are helping them build a basic plan, a strategy. They're 6 months out. They're 12 months out. They're 2 years out. What does that look like? What does long-term follow-up look like for you guys and your team?
Well, definitely, David and I have a very robust CRM system. So we're constantly.
If you don't mind me asking, what do you use?
We have Line Desk.
Lion Desk, okay. Which is free through the company, right? Or was?
Through the association.
Association.
Yeah,
through the
but we have the upgraded one where we can send text messages and stuff like that.
Look at you going upgraded.
Well, plus the team, right? We can assign leads to the team. So
Nice.
that's really the whole part of the follow-up system is that if we do assign leads out, we're able to track conversion. What was their follow-up plan?
Right.
Who called? When did they call? Did the lender call? Our lenders have interface with us as well, because obviously I really believe that if the lender can't get them qualified, then we don't have a deal. So that part is pretty much more crucial than anything,
Right.
because that follow-up, and sometimes lenders get busy and things like that.
And in your model, it sounds like at the beginning, it's the lender.
Yeah.
So it's critical that you've got a lender that's like got some fire to chase, to check in, like, hey, Angela and her team asked me to reach out. I'm trying to get you qualified. Hey, I need your statement of information or all of that, your financials, your pay stubs, et cetera. So long term, you plug these people into the CRM. How many times? Let's say I'm the new buyer. I've got credit issues. I need to save for some down payment. How often do I get touched if I'm saying I'm 2 years out?
Well, that's also part of the lender contact. So, between the buyer's agent and the lender, whatever they work out in information. So, like, let's say they had a 6-month plan and there was maybe medical collections. They have to do a rapid rescore.
Right.
Maybe they're waiting for some money to come through. Then it's the agent and then the lender tag teaming with the
I like
the
it.
buyer.
Yeah, with the client.
Yeah, and also just to keep them engaged on seeing what's going on in the marketplace. So let's say they were buying a condo in Ota Ranch and we're seeing pricing starting to go up. We might, go ahead and reach out to them like, hey, we found something fits your needs, but pricing's going up. Is there any way you can maybe get
a loan,
a gift
mom
from
and dad
mom,
have,
whatever.
Exactly.
We want to get you in with a good deal. So, I mean, every family will have their motivating factors, but at the end of the day, it's just making sure we're communicating because somebody else could do that for them. And if we built a relationship and the rapport, we really want to service it.
Do you work with more than one lender when you are
Yes,
qualifying these?
we
Okay,
do.
I wasn't sure. Some people. I mean, Steve, do you work with more than one lender?
Rarely,
Rarely,
I would
okay.
say. I mean, it depends on the circumstance. There are some times where we have extreme personalities that we feel like somebody might be better over
Okay.
here, over there.
We have language, Spanish
Okay,
speakers.
gotcha.
The VA, we have one dedicated VA lender
Nice.
we work with, but the others are personality driven. If it's, an 8-paper type of buyer, a 750, 800 FICO scores, 25% down, we know where the best programs are for them. So we're going to recommend, but, we try to match them up with a person that we think would, be able to take them across the finish line.
And so then as it relates to this long-term conversion, so I recognize that I like that what you do is you kind of put some of the onus is on the lender as well to follow up. From there, I mean, are you guys checking in with the lender? Like, hey, did you speak with Tony? Like, what's the status? We've checked in with him, and then all of that gets notated in Lion's desk, and you and David have the ability to kind of review it. I know you said you're not I'll say not micromanaging your agents in terms of like every little thing that they have that goes through there, but you are tracking it so that you're able to see. What percentage would you say of the transactions that you do are clients that you have worked with for more than 6 months or a year? I mean, nobody knows that off the top of their head, but just give me a ballpark. Is it 10%?
I would probably say about 10. Most of our clients, more recently, I would say this last 24 months has been a little different, but just because of COVID.
Right.
But we have a pretty good referral SOI base this last year. I did the calculation so far this year, about 65% of our business
So across the board,
was SOI.
It's interesting. So we last week did a podcast, and the podcast will come out at varying orders. So, but we talked about that the top agents that I have come across and have met with, like 55 to 70% of their business across the board, mine included, their business comes from past clients, SOI, and their referrals. And that's like, many times that's where the business is, and the conversion on those is pretty darn easy.
Yeah, so they go in with the plan, right? So, I always, when I was selling more buy-side transactions, I would tell my clients, I'm going to call you in a few years.
Right.
And when I call you, it's because it's time to go. And we're going to get you a bigger house.
And legitimately, this is something that I want to talk about briefly. You do this, and I've never seen anybody do this, and I think this is so good, is you talked about, I saw you talk maybe a year ago, and you talked about that when you put a buyer into a condo, or like, hey, the let's get a chip on the table, you would tell them, hey, you're not going to stay here forever. And so I'm going to help you as the value goes up. When you get some more equity, when you're paying this down, then we're going to make a move into the dream house, or then we're going to make a move into the bigger house. And I'm going to call you, so be ready for my call. Yeah. And obviously you've got client appreciation parties, and you've got other things that you're staying connected to them. But I think that that's rad to be able to say, like, look, you're not dying here. Yeah. I'm not going to let you die here. Yeah.
Right, we're building wealth for families at the end of the day, and that's like the big thing for me is. And I've had clients where I've called just randomly, they get the newsletters, they get the magazines, they come to the parties and all that. But then it's that one time I call, and I had a girl, just a badass story. She bought a foreclosure. super young. She was like 25. And I called her, was it like almost 4 years later. And she's all, it's time. It's time, huh? And I'm all, it's time to go.
Was it your brother or your brother-in-law? You told the story a long time ago, who bought a small condo, moved up to a smaller house, moved up to a bigger house.
Yep.
I mean, same kind of thing. It's rad to, and I think we talk so often about like building strategies, building plans for someone to be able to see, like part of the plan is you got to get a chip on the table.
Right.
You got to make your payments, and then we're going to put you in a spot where then you can make a move.
Nice.
Right. And I think for agents, and since the podcast is more for agents, conversation about conversion is being able to have a predictive model for your business for the following year. So if you go back to the database and you look at all the homes that you've sold within a certain time frame, you could really look at, okay, out of the 80, 90 homes we sold in 2010 or 2015 or whatever, of those, I have now 15 people that need to list to buy.
Right.
So now I can go into next year saying, okay, right off the bat, these listings need to come in to play, and they need to be moved up or moved out. They want to move out of state, or maybe they're getting orders to move out of state. There's so many different variables, but I'm able to see through the database who would be the ones making the move.
So my last question as it relates to this is how much of that is market driven by you, and how much of that is their personal circumstances? As an example, what I mean is you represent a young couple that buys at 25 years old. How much of that is they have a baby and you're like, hey, you're going to outgrow this. We need to make the move now. And how much of it is, hey, the market is prime right now for making that move? Or is it both?
It's kind of both. I think like this last year up until about April, and then all of last year, it was definitely like it's cashing it in, right? Cashing in the chips. Like I was like, this is the time. This is go time. And we had some crazy sales. I mean, just bananas.
Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, it
over
was
asking
crazy.
price.
I mean, I even had a buyer buy a house with Bitcoin. Like to me, that was like, what? It was just,
Right.
it was crazy.
Wow.
But was the conversation with my sellers was, is this going to be where you want to be forever? Is it time to make a move? And a lot of our clients last year moved out of state. We had about a third of our clients move out of state. So they were selling super crazy in California and buying cash in different states.
Absolutely.
And that was a great, that's great for them. That's what real estate is all about. Is about seeing the opportunity,
Absolutely.
striking while the iron's hot. I still believe that the market is great for sellers. I know that there's a little bit now of give and take, which I think is a much more healthy situation
Absolutely.
to be in.
I agree. I agree.
But at the end of the day, people got to live somewhere, and renting sucks. So, you know what? It's time to just make it happen.
Sorry, Steve. Before we move on, to qualifying buyer leads, are you getting any on social? Oh, I thought we were still on buyer. No. Anyways,
Keep
leads in general. Let's talk about leads in general. How's social media looking?
Social media is good. We put a lot more emphasis. I would say this last year, I took a little break from other activities of working that got me to focus back on the business. And so we've been able to step up our game with amazing videographers like our friend over here and over here. And so we've been able to tell our story, tell our client stories, and actually do it in Spanish, which I'm so happy about. And it's very, very organic. I think it allows David and I to have our own personality on camera. And so, yes, we have gotten listing leads off of our videos. We just created a new series called 60 Seconds and we're featuring cities in the South Bay.
Great series.
Thank you. And we write the scripts for it. We do all the filming with another videographer. So I like testing out different things because I feel like it pushes us and it pushes the conversation. And but when you're asking about leads, I will say for those agents out there, I don't think you have to spend tons of money. I mean, we have agents that do it with their own phones, with
for sure.
Tripods and stuff. But the biggest game changer for us in the last 18 months has been hitting the doors.
Yeah. Door hangers. I know you guys have been farming and doing that, and I think you have professional pieces, but I also feel like you guys are consistent. You're out there a lot, and I think that's really what creates so much of the traction that you guys get. So super quick here before we wrap up, I want to talk about two final things. One is, as it relates to qualifying seller leads, is there any specific difference? I mean, of course, we don't have to go through you don't have the third party. You don't have the lender involved who's hey, we need to get you involved to make sure that they qualify, those different types of things. Is there anything specific that you handle from your side, since I know you tend to deal with more listings, as it relates to qualifying a seller lead?
Motivation is always number one. I gotta talk to a seller who's motivated. If they're motivated now, that's fine. If they're motivated in 6 months, that's fine. We'll keep in touch. But we come in with full service plan. So I'm very hands-on when it comes to taking listings. I want my houses to look good because to me, that's my resume. So cleaning, staging, landscaping, air fresheners, put the dogs away, whatever it takes, you know. And I mean, I've been known to get in with a broom and do some cleanup myself if I have to. But my job for the sellers is to make as much money I can on the home. I don't want to leave any money on the table for them. So if they're motivated, it's just let's get it done.
What are the trigger words for a motivated seller when you're talking to them? To determine,
I think, you know, where do they see themselves moving to? If it's out of state, how quickly they can. Obviously, profit, you know, a net sheet is going to be super important. Transition needs are very important for me. I really strive to make my sellers' lives very stress-free, which is why I have the team that I do with Jessica, my stager, my cleaners, all that, because that seems to be like the biggest thing for them is like getting started. Mm-hmm. So from the minute we get the listing agreement signed, the next day they get boxes delivered to their home, because it triggers the psychological like, oh, we're really doing this. Yeah. And it's like, okay, we got to clean up, we got to go through our checklist, and it just starts the process.
Nice.
I love it. My last question before we let you go back to hammering whatever it is that you hammer. Talk to me on the company. Talk to me about how the company supports you, and specifically as it relates to conversion, as it relates to buyers and sellers and that side.
Well, I mean, I love Century 21. I love the brand. I love the franchise. I believe in it. And I know for a fact that I've been at the kitchen table and, you know, the brand is recognized. It's recognized globally. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when you're dealing with a family where maybe English isn't their first language and they see the brand, they recognize it, there's a trust there. And I love that. And the company, I mean, this company's been amazing. We've not had anything but success here. So whether it's idea sharing, contract training, coaching, you know, the marketing team, they've always come through for us.
Nice. Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you, Angela.
Yeah,
it's so great to have you here, and obviously a lot of knowledge, and certainly hopefully we can have you back and talk more about the different aspects. And thank you
everybody,
to our 6 viewers that continue to stay loyal, and we really appreciate you. We'll be back soon talking more things, all real estate, but as always, contingent on you listening.
Adios.